Contrary to popular belief, I don't actually cook for Caitlin every single night, and that's because quite often she goes out with the girls for dinner. And on those nights, I cook one of these 5 dishes. So these were meals I used to always make myself after working huge shifts as a professional chef in London years ago. They're easy to pull together, you don't have heaps of dirty dishes, and there's not loads of leftovers. Today, I'm gonna run you through the beef quesadilla, a tuna niçoise, a delicious bowl of spicy ramen, a chili and prawn pasta, and my personal favorite, the chicken rice in a rice cooker. All amazing dishes that are gonna fill you up and won't take heaps of time to pull together. Should be a fun one today. Let's get stuck in. Okay, the beef quesadilla, I promise you, this is as hard as they get, the most ingredients and as complex as these recipes get. We're gonna start with this capsicum and we're just gonna dice it. We honestly probably only need half of it. Yeah, I reckon that's enough. Save that for a salad later. It's probably worth mentioning, we're in a new studio. Hello. So I'm in Sydney now. If you want a bit of a tour of the studio, jump over to the Back of House channel. There should be a video there. And we are close to the airport. If you hear an airplane, it's all right. Let's not call it out in the comments. So I'm just gonna dice this capsicum, about 1 centimeter square. Put that to one side. I've got 1 white onion. I probably only need half of it. So I'm gonna use half of the half for the pico de gallo and the other half for the beef. Top and tail, peel, and then we're just gonna dice. We've been here for like 2 weeks. I haven't heard one airplane. We shoot the first YouTube and I've heard 3. Half of this with the capsicum and keep the other half with pico de gallo. What else do we need to cut? Garlic. We're not even gonna cut it. We're just gonna microplane it. Yeah, the reason we microplane it's just easier. I mean, you can cut it, but it's gonna make your board smell nasty. So I like to put it on my bench scraper. Then your board doesn't get covered in garlic juice. To the pan, you turn the pan on high, like you want a large fry pan. We're only gonna use 1 fry pan for this whole recipe. Get a bit of olive oil in there and get that heating up. The only other thing we need to get done is we need to finish our pico de gallo. So I've got 1 Roma tomato here. We're just gonna dice that, take the core out, leave the seeds in and just dice it. Jalapeno, take the top off in half and dice it. You can leave the seeds in or take them out. I'm gonna take them out. The reason I love this dish is because I often have some leftover mince hanging around. It's also super comforting and cheesy when you get that big cheese pull. Food makes me happy. I'm an emotional eater, and this is one of those kind of delicious emotional eater things. That pan's nice and hot in there. We've got the garlic, the onion, and the capsicum. Make sure you toss that quickly so the garlic doesn't burn. To a bowl, we're gonna add our tomato, the other quarter of an onion, jalapeno, and the pico de gallo. We're also gonna put some coriander through it, stalks and all. Just cut it in half and then make sure you cut it in one direction so you don't have long bits of stalk, but there's nothing wrong with eating the stalks. Make sure it's washed too. Coriander is often grown in hydroponic sand. You don't wanna get in that sand in there, and that goes. So we're getting some nice color. What we're gonna do is we're gonna move our veggies to the side. If we need to, we can add a little bit more oil, but I reckon there's enough in there for me. We're gonna add some ground beef. This is for me, it's about 200 grams. That's more than enough for my dinner. Break it up a little bit and then just kind of let it hang out. You do wanna try and get a bit of color on that before you start tossing it. Another season of salt. So the meat's starting to brown a bit. We just wanna toss the veggies through it now, mainly because I don't want the veggies to burn. Still haven't got much color on that meat, but we'll just cook it down a little bit longer and we should develop some. Make sure you break up that meat a bit too. Use the back of your spoon. Now we're gonna season with our spices. So I got smoked paprika here, about a teaspoon, ground cumin, teaspoon, ground coriander, about half a teaspoon, some oregano. If you got Mexican oregano, extra points. If you just got normal, that's fine as well. They are quite different though, a flavor profile. Mexican oregano tends to taste a little bit more, I guess, earthy. Toss those spices through and keep breaking that meat up, but we're pretty close here. This beef mince won't take long to cook and we don't really want to overcook it or it will dry out, even though we're going to add a little moisture back in with our cheese. Another 30 seconds in that pan and that is done. Just while that's finishing, we're just going to dress our pico de gallo, little drizzle of olive oil, pinch of salt, and the juice of a lime. That meat is done. Heat off. Make sure you get all that delicious stuff off the bottom of the pan. We're going to use this pan to cook our tortillas, so scrape all that stuff off the bottom. Mix this pico de gallo, so that's ready to go. All we need to do now is grate our cheese. I like to use a dry mozzarella for this. You can kind of really use whatever cheese you want, or like a Monterey Jack. A Mexican cheddar. It looks like it's got some chili in there and some spices. You can use 1 cheese, you can use 2 cheese. I don't know about anyone else, but I always have random blocks of cheese in my fridge. The reason we grate cheese, our own cheese as well, instead of buying it, is because when they grate it in the factories, they kind of use a non-caking agent on it, which it has this like weird dusty kind of feeling to it. Look, I'm not judging you if you buy grated cheese. It doesn't really affect the mouth. It's just an extra ingredient that I don't really want in my food. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's also cheaper just to make it yourself as well. That's about as much as we need for 3 quesadillas. I think 3 is the right number. After a big day at work, we're ready to start cooking our quesadillas. We're just gonna wipe out the bottom of our pan, a little bit more oil, not heaps, spread that around, heat on. So I'm gonna use flour tortillas, but you can use corn tortillas if you want. Just spread your oil out. You don't want heaps of oil here. We're just trying to toast this. We're not trying to like deep fry the tortilla. So place your tortilla down in your pan. On half of it, add your beef and veggies, cheese on top, fold it over. Move that to the side. Turn your pan down low. You want to control your temperature here. We're trying to toast this tortilla. We're also trying to melt our cheese. So our beef will be hot. Our cheese isn't particularly cold either, so it shouldn't take long, but you don't want to toast this super hard. You want a nice golden color evenly. So the other side, and the same thing. Beef, cheese. Then I'm going to try and be tricky and fit 3 in here. What do you reckon? Yeah, we can do it. This is a good dish to do as well if you're camping, if you just got a barbecue that you're cooking off on a flat plate, it would work really well. Told you it would fit. No one believed me. Cool, we're just gonna toast those both sides. It's probably gonna take 3 or 4 minutes each side and we'll get them out. You could do this with any meat you wanted to. Slice chicken thigh, fish if you really wanted to, or some prawns would be really nice through here. Or you can just do veggie, straight veggie. So mushroom, capsicum, onions. All right, we're gonna have a look at this first one, see how it's going. Yes. Yum, I can't wait to eat these. It's time to get these out. I like to cut these into 3. Onto a plate. Now the pico de gallo, you can either put it over the top. I prefer to kind of have it in a ramekin. Bit of that on top, nice freshness. That is a delicious TV dinner. Next up, something a bit lighter and fresher, a classic niçoise. One of my favorites and an absolute classic. It takes about the same amount of time as it's gonna take to boil these potatoes. So that's first off the rank. We're gonna take some potatoes into cold water, a bit of salt. We're gonna bring them up to the boil and we're gonna cook them until they're fork tender. It's gonna take about 25 minutes. While that's happening, we're gonna get everything else ready. So tuna. Now, in an ideal world, I'd love to eat some beautiful, fresh yellowfin tuna, but it's not an ideal world. A nice, good quality tin tuna works just as well. Then we're just gonna have some simple cherry tomatoes sliced in half. We've got some cos lettuce, which we're gonna keep lovely, fresh and whole. And then we've got some green beans here. We're gonna blanch these for 3 or 4 minutes and then plunge them into ice cold water. And then of course, we need some eggs. So I'm gonna use 2 eggs in mine. I like my eggs, like for salads, cook for like 7 minutes where they're just jammy. Then all we need is some black olives, and we're gonna make a simple dressing by adding some lemon juice, olive oil, and salt to a jar and shaking it really, really well so it emulsifies. All right, we've got everything ready. It's time to bring this together, and it couldn't be simpler. Half the dressing on the leaves. We'll save the other half for the top of the salad. A little bit of finishing salt in your leaves too. Make sure you toss them around, get a good amount of dressing over all those leaves, and then get them on your plate. And then we can start piling it up with all the other ingredients. So now we've got our potatoes. Once they were cooked, we just kind of let them come down to room temperature. They're still a bit warm, but that's all right. And we're just gonna cut them so that they're like mouthful size, if that makes sense. Means you can put it in your mouth and you're not looking like a gannet trying to chew your food. Arrange your spuds evenly across your salad, or your cos, I should say. Then we go with our tomatoes, our olives. So the beans, we do want to cut these a little bit, but I think just in half is fine on an angle so it looks pretty, you know. Niçoise isn't really a niçoise without green beans, so I like to add a lot of green beans. Next we're gonna add our tuna. So if you're getting tinned tuna, break it up a little bit. I reckon 100 grams is enough. It's Qantas QF1 landing from LA. We just got our eggs left, so I just want to cut these in half. You can cut them in quarters as well if you want, but on they go. Bit of an egg shortage worldwide at the moment. If you can't find them, just leave them off. It's also going against my 3's only plating philosophy, so we can sort that out by anyone. Anyone let me know in the comments of where this whole 3 only design philosophy came from. I don't know, I heard it one day and then I've stuck to it ever since. All right, we're just gonna finish this with a little bit more of this dressing. Kind of focusing on the tuna. Tin tuna especially can use a bit of livening up sometimes. A bit of flaky sea salt, and that's it. My tuna niçoise with tinned tuna, black olives, potatoes, green beans, a classic for a reason. Next up, the dish that's gonna take a shorter amount of time to make than it's gonna take me to eat this. I did this one as a short the other day. Not only did it do really well performance-wise, but I've had like literally a dozen people come up to me and say, that's amazing, I've done it, it's delicious. So we'll run over it really quickly. At the start, I was like, oh, I eat this when I've finished work. This is the one, probably 8 times out of 10, this is the dish that I eat when I finish work. There's some slight variants, but nothing too crazy. So it's the Shin Ramen. This is not sponsored, I just like this brand, so I'm gonna talk about it. It's the black one. I think it's black garlic. I don't know, it's just anyway. I thought it was black garlic, maybe it's not. So we need the noodles, obviously, but I'm trying to get all these things here. So water, not too much, I don't know, what's that, 200 mils? Soup base goes in. And sometimes when I was really lazy growing up, I'd literally just like pour the soup base on top of the dry ramen and eat it. I don't think I'm the only person that did that either. Flakes, what does flakes mean? And another soup base, double soup base. Okay, let that come up to a boil, give it a mix with your chopsticks, and then we're gonna add peanut butter, the secret ingredient. A good tablespoon, crunchy peanut butter, it has to be crunchy. Doesn't have to be crunchy. If you don't like crunchy, don't put crunchy, but I'll judge you. Let that peanut butter dissolve, and then while that's dissolving, we're gonna get the rest of it ready. So an egg into a bowl and whisk it. So I'm gonna put some chicken in this because I have some shredded chicken. If I didn't have shredded chicken, I'd probably put 2 eggs in it. If you're gonna add 2 eggs, I would add a little bit more water. The egg will thicken up the soup base, but I've got some chicken, so now that's boiling. Noodles go in, chicken goes in with the noodles to come up to temperature. Spring onion's real simple, tops off, just slice the whites. I like a bit of texture in the white part, otherwise it kind of just gets lost, all the way down to the really green part, and those go. Now we're gonna cut the rest of these nice and fine for the top. Just gonna break the noodles up, and then once they're almost done, actually I'm gonna season it with a little bit of soy sauce. Sometimes I use soy sauce, sometimes fish sauce, but you don't need heaps of seasoning too. There should be enough salt and MSG and stuff in those packets of soup mix. Okay, you want your noodles pretty much ready. So they're gonna take about maybe 30 more seconds before you add the egg. All right, our noodles are good. We're gonna stream our egg in and stir it as we're doing it. It's gonna thicken up, and stop stirring it at the end, and you will get like some big pieces of egg. If you don't want big pieces, keep stirring it and it'll just thicken your sauce. I like to stir for half of the egg and then just let the other half kind of cook. What that does is that you get effectively scrambled egg or steamed egg. So let that do its thing for 30 seconds. Egg don't take long to cook, and then stir it through. That's it. Add half of your spring onion greens, turn the heat off, your bowl's ready, stir the greens through into the bowl. To finish, the spring onion greens on top, and then of course, chili crisp. And I like lots of the crispy bits, the little fermented beans and stuff. Get some oil in there as well, make sure the picture looks pretty for the YouTube thumbnail. So important. Spicy. That's dinner, literally in 5 minutes. And what dishes did I use? A bowl, a spoon, a fork, a pot, a pair of chopsticks, and a bowl to serve it in. It's comforting, it's filling, and it will certainly make you sleep well at night. Okay, just like the last one, the next one, well this one, the pasta is gonna dictate how long this takes to cook. So I've got a big pot of water here, boiling away nicely. We're gonna season it with salt generously, and it's gonna boil over everywhere and cause chaos. And then we're gonna get our pasta in there. I kind of said famously in the video, 100 to 150 grams of pasta. Everyone got mad at me, they said it's not enough. So we'll say 200 grams so people don't get mad. So 200 grams of good quality spaghetti, and we'll let that do its thing. It's gonna take about 10 minutes or so to cook. We've got one chili here. I don't need the whole thing, probably just need half of it. And we're just gonna slice it nice and fine. And then, that's enough. Maybe a little more. I've got some cloves of garlic. I'm just gonna use 2, and I'm just gonna crush them. I'm not even gonna cut them. Then I've got some prawns here. Now these were frozen, raw, peeled, and deveined prawns. I always have these in my freezer because they're really quick and easy. They defrost really quickly, and they're a great source of protein. They're really low in fat, you know, they're super tasty, and they cook really fast. So I've got about 10 or 12 of those ready to go. Quickly give my pasta a bit of a stir. So this is the trick to having your pasta not stick together, is once it's kind of relaxed a bit and it's falling you can actually fit it all in the pot, is to stir it every 30, 45 seconds, especially at the start. So I've got some cherry tomatoes. I'm gonna say 10 of these. I'm just gonna cut them in half, just like that. I'm gonna move my pasta back to this other burner here and put a fry pan on the big burner. Say 2 tablespoons of olive oil in there. And before that really heats up, add your crushed garlic. And what that's gonna do is really like flavor that oil really nicely. Continue with my tomatoes. And then I got some flat leaf parsley. We're just gonna trim a lot of this off so we don't have all those stalks. Bunch it up tight. I like lots of parsley in this pasta. Some people find it gets a bit earthy, but I enjoy it. If you do, just don't add quite as much. If you're trying to add some more veggies in here as well, you could put in some baby spinach or something if you wanted to, you know, try to be a bit more health conscious. So back to our pan. I can hear this garlic is starting to sizzle, which is perfect. That's what we're after. Now, control your temperature of your pan at this point. It's really important. We want this garlic good, it goes nice and brown. You don't want it to go black or it will go bitter. So I'm gonna turn that heat down all the way and just hold that pan for a minute while the oil kind of drops in temperature. Okay, gonna add our prawns to the oil. Turn the heat back up because that temperature of that pan's dropped right off with those cold prawns in there. We're also gonna add our tomatoes and our chili. Little pinch of salt. That was good. Now we're pretty much waiting for our pasta to be cooked. If you got this to this point and you're worried that the prawns are going to overcook, just turn the heat off. I think they're all right at the moment for me. I'm going to turn that temperature down a bit and I'm going to wait for my pasta to be cooked. I like it pretty al dente, but yeah, cook it how you want it. And you bite into it. But if you're still seeing like a white core, it's probably not quite ready yet. However, carryover cooking will keep it cooking, so we're good. So we don't want to drain this pasta at all because we want some of the starchy water to help emulsify our sauce. So just get your tongs in there, pull your pasta out into there. Little splash of the water, heat back up to full, and just toss. So at this point, once your sauce is starting to stick to the pasta, which is what you're looking for, we can add our parsley and save a little bit more for the top. Toss that through, and we're ready to play. So if you're not like a huge garlic fan, you can pull those garlic cloves out. I like to leave them in because I love like eating half-cooked garlic, but maybe I'm weird. So you get all the good bits on the top and clean up my mess. A little bit more parsley, drizzle of olive oil, and then heaps of Parmesan. Just joking. The Italians will understand the non-funny joke that I just made. And there you have it, my prawn and chili pasta. It's super simple, super hearty, full of protein, and it only takes as long as it takes to cook the pasta to pull it together. Next up, one of my absolute favorites that's a close second to the ramen that we just made, my rice cooker chicken. The rice cooker chicken, the final one, this is an interesting one because this is a really common dish. That I definitely did not invent this dish. It's a very common dish throughout most of Asia. It's one of those dishes that all you need is a rice cooker to cook it. So if you live in an apartment or something like that, it's really easy to pull off. The other interesting thing about this dish is that it's kind of like I guess like you'd almost call it a version of Hainanese chicken rice, although that feels unfair to the Hainanese chicken rice because it's an amazing dish and far more complex. Anyway, so I posted this video not long ago, and there's always people in the comments that are like, I don't want to eat boiled chicken. And it's like, I urge you to please just give this a go. I know it might seem really foreign to you to have a piece of poached chicken in rice with aromats, you know, but honestly, there's a reason a lot of the world eats this dish, and it's because it's delicious. So it's pretty simple. We're actually going to start with the rice. So take a rice cooker and jasmine rice. You can either use the cup that comes with it or just any measurement that you kind of want. Oh, I don't know what happened. That's what happened. We're going to use equal quantities. The reason we use a cup is because we want the even quantity. So fill your rice cup up once with the rice. This is for one person, by the way. In that goes. Now we're going to go to the sink and we've got cold water and we're just going to wash our rice 3 times. So pour it in, use your hand to really, agitate it. And you can see there, you can see how milky that's going already. Pour that off. We're going to do it 2 more times. Okay, I'm going to drain this last part off really well. Make sure you get most of the water out because otherwise if we don't, the ratio will be wrong. Cool. Back to the rice cooker. So that goes into your rice cooker. And then we have the same amount. This is bone broth. So you could just use chicken stock. You can use water if you want, or you can use like an OXO cube dissolved in water. I like to use bone broth because it's got more flavor. Yeah, it's a lot more gelatinous too. You see how thick it is. So the same amount of rice of bone broth in there. And then we're just gonna give this like a little swirl, like you're being one of those fancy wine guys. And all that does is make sure the rice is even, so it's gonna cook more evenly. Now we need to flavor that. So we've got the spring onions. We're gonna cut these into battens. I've got 3 spring onions here, 2 centimeters until the green part, in they go. Garlic, 2 cloves, just smash. Give it a good smash. In that goes. Nice knob of ginger. We're gonna peel it. You can use the back of a spoon. You can use your knife. If it's really rough like that, I'll use the knife on the big bits, and then I'll use the back of my knife to save the dishes on the nice flat bits. And then we're just gonna slice that into battens. It's probably a bit big, that piece, so I'll probably do half of it. So let's just slice it thinly one way, arrange them in some order, and then finally slice them the other way. In the ginger goes. Spread it out evenly. Pinch of salt, pinch of MSG. If you don't want MSG, just leave it out. You're missing out though. The only other thing we're gonna do is the chicken. So I like to use this here, which is the chicken thigh, bone on, skin on. Sesame oil on the chicken, and we're gonna rub it all over. We're gonna place that into our rice cooker. So in that goes, and we're just gonna like nuzzle it down, right? It's not gonna be completely submerged. So close your lid. First time I've used this rice cooker. So the regular setting, so white, regular, push start. That's gonna cook for its normal cycle. The rice cooker is gonna take anything from 15 to 25 minutes, depending on how much rice you got in there. With that much rice, it'll probably take about 15 minutes. That's more than enough time for that chicken to get cooked through. Trust me on that. We'll see you in 15. Okay, this has been 25, almost 30 minutes actually, but we are good. Look at that, that's hotter than it should be. That's 88 degrees, that's right on the bone too. It's at 90 degrees, so that's definitely cooked. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull this piece of chicken out, and we're just gonna kind of let it rest on the plate for a second, and we're gonna let that rice steam for a bit. When I'm saying steaming, I mean, it's kind of drying it out. Not, you know, so it will, wow, it's the end of the day. My vocabulary is not the best when I'm not tired, so it's really lost now. When I say steaming, I mean letting some of that vapor come off it. It'll kind of dry some of the rice out a little bit. While that's happening, we're gonna slice some spring onion greens nice and fine for garnish. Also add a bit of extra onion freshness to the end. So this is one of these dishes it's like, it only takes 5 minutes to pull together. Although there were some funny comments about people taking 20 minutes to 5 minutes to peel the garlic, but it takes about half an hour to cook. So what I used to do is get home, put everything in the rice cooker, close it down, then go have a shower, get myself sorted, and then come back and dinner's ready. I think I have some chili crisp in here. I do. Take our rice out. We're gonna fluff it up, and you can see there, so the chicken fat renders out, and then it makes some of the rice go real delicious and golden brown. So toss that around a bit, get all that chicken fat through that rice nicely. Put our chicken on a board and plate up some of our rice. Then we're gonna carve our chicken off the bone. Chicken on the rice, spring onions on top. And then lastly, a bit of chili oil, chili crisp. Sriracha is actually really good with this as well. That kind of vinegary, kind of chili sauce number. I think the vinegar works quite well with it. But there you go, an absolute favorite of mine. The chicken rice in a rice cooker. It literally takes 5 minutes to pull together. And then you've got half an hour of it cooking. You can just ignore it. You don't have to do anything for it. And the proof is in the eating, because this eats amazingly. It's a delicious plate of food. I guess we should try some. And honestly, the star of the show, the chicken's really important because it's the fat from the chicken that makes this rice so delicious. But the star of the show is 100% that rice. It absorbs all that delicious chicken flavor, super well balanced with that little bit of MSG in there, nicely salted and a bit of heat from the chili crisp. Delicious. So there you go, 5 delicious dishes that are super quick to pull together without heaps of leftovers and not a pile of dishes. Let me know in the comments what one of these you're gonna try first, and like this video if you took anything from it. Subscribe if you're not. We'll see you next week for another recipe. But I know what one I'm going for, the chicken rice.